Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you are poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. Today I was reminded of this wonderful quote by James Baldwin, where he says, to be African American is to be African without memory and American without privilege. And I love that quote because to me, when you talk about memory, it is invoking the significance of tradition. And he affirms that we're African, right? So we have the features, we have the athleticism, we have the artistry, we have the genius that has characterized Africa since the beginning of time. But unfortunately, we don't have the memory. We don't have the tradition that contextualizes our abilities. So if you take something like our rhythmic sensitivity, oh yeah, we're such great dancers, but without the memory of what the dance is supposed to be for, we're out here dancing for anything, for nonsense. We're dancing to our own demise. With our appreciation of rhythm and how rhythm moves us and all the things that the drum invokes without proper memory, then we're misusing or allowing that rhythmic sensitivity and command of rhythm to be exploited for purely negative, outcomes. Because we can't remember. We don't have a tradition that says this is why you drum, this is why you dance, for example. And then to be American without privilege speaks to the fact that we are, as I think his name is Tommy Todd, who in the beginning of Public Enemy's Fight the Power is, you're the best educated, the best trained, the best equipped troops who refuse to fight. Well, it isn't just that, and as a matter of fact, you would rather switch than fight. Well, you'd rather switch because that's where your privilege is going to come. If you're using all of your abilities, your resources, and your natural gifts and talents, for our own benefit, then you end up like Killmonger, right? I'm using a lot of pop references this morning, but I hope you understand that where I'm coming from. Remember in the Black Panther, Killmonger, he wanted to take the vibranium and the best fighters and take them to the hood. And what happened? The only real character in the movie, the CIA guy, it was, which is the only real entity, right? Wakanda and all that, and vibranium is imaginary, but there's a real CIA. So there's a strong message in Black Panther too, that won't happen. So that your privilege, that's what James Bond was talking about. You don't have the privilege to stand up and be really autonomous and independent over here. So it's a simple quote, but it's loaded with lots and lots of power. And to bring it back to a scholarly context, we look at what James Baldwin's quote means relative to what W.E.B. Du Bois told us about the dilemma of the black man is dual consciousness. And dual consciousness is not being bilingual or bicultural. Dual consciousness is seeing yourself through the white man's eyes. That's what the dual consciousness is about. It's about you have eyes, but the lens through which your eyes see are the white man's, prescription, so to speak. Right? You're filtering everything through someone else's value system and someone else's agenda. Right? All of these things are at play when I think about this really wonderful quote that James Baldwin gave us. And to simplify it, let's go to folklore. The story of John Henry in lots of ways epitomizes this dilemma, right? This internal conflict that we suffer with as African Americans. If you're not familiar with the story of John Henry, it's a wonderful African American folktale that talks about John Henry, who was the strongest man to ever walk the planet. John Henry, he could hammer, he could whistle, he could sing. Went to the mountain early in the morning just to hear his hammer ring. Lord, Lord, hear his hammer ring. I love John Henry so much. John Henry represents this internal conflict between our nature and the technology, the advancement of American society. John Henry works on the railroad tracks. They invent the steam drill, and they say that the steam drill is going to displace all the workers. John Henry vows that he's going to outwork the steam drill and prove that man is greater than machine. He does prove the point. He beats the steam drill, but then he immediately falls dead. And one day I told this story in a training. I was doing an executive training. I think I was in Texas. And I told this story to a group of managers and their assistants about rolling out this campaign and the amount of work that we would have to exert to do this thing successfully. And there was a guy who stood up. He was a Hindu man, actually. And he stood up and he says, Femi, I love that story. I love that story. And I wonder how much more successful would John Henry had been if he had taken the steam drill and used it with his own strength. If he combined his strength with the technology, how much more successful would he have been? And I thanked him, I said, well, that's a paradigm shift for me right now. Thank you so much. I really love that as a question. And I want to pose that question to all of you right now. We've been fed this idea and we've been conditioned to believe that our religious and spiritual inclinations are at odds with science and empiricism. That if you are scientific and if you're business minded, then you have to shun spiritual things and religious things as hocus pocus and superstition. And I want to suggest to you that isn't the case. That we can rely upon our natural inclination towards esoteric, ancestral, spiritual, and cultural things. We can stand on that and use science and technology to our benefit. That is my challenge to you today, to start to examine how can you really be true to yourself and draw upon the ancestral memory to guide how you engage with science and technology and the Western world. That is one of the things that has drawn me deeper and deeper into psychology. I appreciate psychology because in the same way that we have, we use biological facts to pull us out of the realm of superstition. We use scientific facts to pull us out of the realm of superstition. We use technological facts to pull us out of the realm of superstition. We likewise use psychological facts to rescue us from the realm of superstition. But just because we have science and technology, that does not mean that we have no soul. It doesn't mean that we have no ancestors. It just means that we understand them from a scientific perspective. We understand the scientific fact of our ancestry. For example, the personal unconscious is a psychological fact. It's not a scientific fact. It's a psychological fact that you have a personal unconscious. Your personal unconscious is everything that has lapsed. You experienced it when you were a child. You don't think about it every day. As a matter of fact, it is so deep into your memory that you couldn't even really recall what happened when you were 2 years old, when you were 6 months old, when you were 5 years old. Those things have lapsed into your unconscious. But it is a psychological fact that is there. You just can't conjure it. under ordinary circumstances. Likewise, the collective unconscious is a psychological fact that all of your people, that the people with whom you've had this shared experience over hundreds of years and over thousands of years, likewise, there are things that are a part of our collective experience that have lapsed into the realm of forgetfulness, but they are encoded into our being. We know them. They show up as our instincts. They show up as our intuition, right? There are things that make you sensitive as a Black person to certain rhythms in ways that you can't explain. If you ever have a chance to see this movie Rise, that was produced out of like South Central Los Angeles, you got these groups of young people in the hood who are performing dance in the exact same way that dance is performed in Africa. And when they see the Africans do it, they're wondering who taught them how to crump, who taught them how to clown. Why are they doing the same steps that we do? Why are they moving in the same way that we move? Because it's a part of the collective unconscious. It's been passed down generation after generation after generation in your DNA, in your culture. The archetypes are psychological facts. Archetypes are patterns of how the principles of the mind organize themselves and instruct you on how to show up under different circumstances, how to father, how to mother, how to child, how to be an elder, on and on and on. The shadow, the anima, the animus, all of these are archetypes. They are universal. They show up in all human minds, but they show up in certain ways according to your ancestry and your culture. These are psychological facts. They cannot be extracted from you without removing your humanity. But we look upon them with a scientific lens so that we don't have to be superstitious about explaining who we are, where we come from, and what we're doing. It's encoded into our consciousness as psychological fact. Just like the world, the globe is a sphere. Just like bacteria and virus are known, measurable empirical realities. You can't see them with your eye. You need a certain instrument to be able to detect them. But once you know the pattern, then it's irrefutable. These are facts. And so for me, these represent the steam drill. And the fact that you just feel them and understand them internally represents, that's your John Henry. That's your nature. Now you need to use your nature to engage with the science so that you can be precise and not superstitious about how you engage, how you proceed, how you advance, how you develop, how you master your environment and stay in alignment with who you are, where you come from, and your ancestral memory. And so this is, as always, a super important lesson for the leaders. If you are one of those folks who are determined to improve the world through positive influence, and you do not want to compromise and eradicate your identity and your ancestry in the process, I want you to find out how Oloye, Obafemi Origunwa, and the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life and your lineage to the highest level possible. Visit me at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com, and let's start working together to help you bring about the good condition for yourself and those who you're destined to serve. I look forward to working with you. Bye for now. Odabo.